This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
The law of attraction states that everything is energy and that like attracts like. True spirituality states that the only true reality is that of oneness, unity, and unconditional love and forgiveness. Together, these two are attached at the hip and perform a beautiful symbiotic dance together. Hi, I'm Carl Gruber, author of the brand new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship. This is a book that will show you how to build a rock-solid personal foundation based on unchanging, eternal, universal truth that shows you how to become a consistent co-creator with the universe to create the life you love to live and live to love. Get your copy today of my new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship, and learn how to manifest the life you truly desire to be living. Now available as an ebook or paperback on Amazon. Hey, this is the podcast World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. I'm your host, Carl Gruber. Now, those of you who have been following this show for the last 5.5 years know that one of the core missions of this show is the study of the non-dualistic spirituality as taught in the modern spiritual guide called A Course in Miracles. I have had many of the world's great teachers of the Course on the show, and today continues that path with yet another great teacher. Before we go off to meet our guests, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button for the show so that you never miss another episode. And make sure to share the show with anyone and everyone you think might have an interest and a need in it. So today, David Fishman is our featured guest on today's show, also affectionately known as Dove. He found A Course in Miracles in 1977 and recognized it as a valid source of reality. He's one of the earliest teachers of the A.C.I.M. and has been instrumental in the worldwide spread of its teachings of unconditional love, forgiveness, and oneness. Having studied the uncompromising, non-dualistic spiritual teachings of the A.C.I.M. for over 40 years, he has teamed up with Dr. Jon Mundy and formed the One Mind Foundation, which teaches how to experience the peace and truth of Source now, here in this lifetime. The One Mind Foundation was founded in 2008 with a mission to expand our vision of inclusion and equality. And David's book, Into Oneness, is based on the metaphysical spiritual teachings of A Course in Miracles. Its foundation is the realization of our connectedness through the concept of oneness. David's longtime group called ACIM Gather, which began in 2004, has been a bootcamp for many of today's teachers. And David also mentors Course students, reminding them that miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. Wow, with that, we welcome David. It's been a long time coming. I'm so glad to finally get you on the show.
Thank you so much, Carl. I really appreciate being invited. I really do.
Well, it's great. Yeah, and by the way, you know, I know you have a background. There's a dog on David's lap, but the dog is blipping in out of reality.
He's happy, and he's just happy to say hello when the show starts, and then he gets off.
Happy, yeah, I know, and we talked about that. My cat Maya might join us here too. So, hi, Happy. Well, let's. There's a lot to talk about here, David. And by the way, how did you come to be known as Dove? D-O-V.
Well, a long time ago, at ACIM Gather back 2005, David Hoffmeister used to come on Fridays, and we had festive Fridays. And people said, David said this or David said that. And I said, well, I tell you what, just use Dove for me and use David for David Hoffmeister. So I became Dove.
Well, David Hoffmeister is an amazing teacher too. He was actually one of my very first guests. And David, I live in Columbus, Ohio, and David is originally from Cincinnati. And he messaged me, said, "Hey, I'm going to visit my mom in a couple weeks," and I got to go down and hang out with David for an afternoon, just with him and a couple. And he's just such a sweet man. But let's focus on you. You've been at the forefront of studying and teaching A Course in Miracles since its earliest days, starting for you in 1977. But I understand you had a spiritual awakening in 1972. What was that all about?
Well, prior to 72, I was like total ego. And
Mm.
basically, I had a great marriage, and then which ended in divorce. It was totally my stuff. And I went through 2 years of hitting rock bottom. And probably if it wasn't for the fact that I was up all night one night, and I went over to somebody's home in New York City to crash, and they had some mescaline, and I took it. And I got to tell you, I had taken it many times before, but this time, after not sleeping for 24 hours, my defenses were down. And all of a sudden, instead of seeing everybody else very clearly, I looked within and I cried for hours. Literally, I call it orgasmic crying. And when it was over, there was like a picture in my mind of a younger me with a like a Superman shirt that said, "Love the truth." That was the three words that actually propelled me into a whole new mindset.
Wow, wow, what a great story. This is way back in 1972. And it's interesting. I've had a number of guests on the show who have talked about plant medicine ceremonies, and you kind of did your own thing too. One other thing that intrigues me is that at this time in your life, you were a young Jewish man who was attracted to the teachings of the ACIM that was given to the scribe of the course, Helen Schuckman, but in a voice identified as Jesus. Now, did this cause a conflict for yourself?
Well,
Simply,
at first, I wasn't really used to the Christian words and the terminology, but as it happened, there was the very first conference for the Course of Miracles was held at the Plaza Hotel in 1980 by a rabbi. He was actually a Jewish rabbi, Steinberg, and the morning he gave 50 words that he wanted people to understand. And when he got to the word Christ, he said, "Well, Christ is your family name. It's like it's Carl Christ, there's David Christ, there's Dove Christ, there's Happy Christ. Everyone's family name is Christ." And then all of a sudden I realized, my God, I had made a big thing out of the word Christ, and it really meant only our family name.
I love that explanation. So you went to this conference with this Jewish rabbi, and was that the very first time you heard of A Course in Miracles, or did it come into your life in a different way?
It came to me in 1977 when I had taken S. I don't know if you heard of S. and Werner Erhard, and I had taken it. And I always say if I didn't take S, I probably wouldn't have done the course, because S really, in a way, got my ego out of the way. And I heard about this thing called the Course of Miracles from one of the founders of S. His name was Stuart Emery, but he lived right next door to Jerry Jampolsky in Tiburon. And Jerry gave him the Xerox copy of the book around 1975, and said to him, maybe this book will be helpful to you. And after doing it for 6 months, he called up New York and said, "Can I visit this woman, Helen Schuckman?" And they said, "Sure, fly in and we'll set up a meeting." I heard him speak to 250 people about a week or two after that meeting. And he said, "I spent a whole day with this woman, Helen Schuckman. And I could tell you, in the first 20 minutes, I knew she could never possibly have written this course. She was so judgmental and narrow-minded." So I was in the back of the room. I said, "Well, if she didn't write it, who did?" And somebody whispered in my ear and said, it doesn't matter who wrote it. Just get the books and start with lesson one and go as far as you can. And that's how I got here.
Wow, wow, this is fantastic story. Yeah, and I guess the book, the Xerox copy of A Course in Miracles is floating around because it wasn't maybe another year or two before
That's right.
the Foundation for Inner Peace published it.
Correct.
Um, just for a moment on speaking of Jewish heritage, well, Helen, the scribe of the course, was Jewish, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so your explanation of Carl Christ, David Christ, I mean, I love that. That is real because it's the family of humanity.
Yes. I mean, Christ is the Son of God. And there's only one Son, basically.
And it wouldn't matter if you're Muslim or Hindu or Christian or Jewish, So yeah, what a wonderful explanation on
Like
it.
Krishna Christ.
Yeah, why not? It's great. Well, one thing I would like to find out too, another one of who I call the foundational teachers of the ACIM is Dr. Jon Mundy, who's also been on the show and is a colleague of yours. How did you two meet, and how did you two end up creating the One Mind Foundation?
Well, I knew John before I ever heard of A Course in Miracles. We kind of in the same. He was from the New York area. I was from New York, and we kind of dated the same women, you might say. That was back when we were both in our 30s, and later, a couple of years later, I found the Course in Miracles, and I didn't even know he was doing it. And all of a sudden, I was around 78 or 79. I said, "Oh my God, you're doing the course too!" And actually, after meeting me, he also did S. So he will say that he did S because of me, but I had found the course because of S. So it all just came together perfectly. How did we find the One Mind? I started it along with a gal named Linda Carr back in 2008. Although we got the IRS to give us the not-for-profit category in back to 2006, and John became part of it about 8 years ago.
Yeah, two of the world's best teachers, you and John. This is wonderful. I want to step back for a moment. You've mentioned Est before. I've had Gary Renard, one of the teachers of the course, on the show 3 times, and Gary told me too the same thing. Even before he got into the ACIM, he had studied EST. I can't remember what EST stands for, but it was one of the first mind training, mind opening courses.
Yes, actually, about 1 million people worldwide have taken it. It started out in California. Werner Erhard and a guy named Stuart Emery. Stuart was from Australia, but S stands for well, it has two meanings. S is the Latin for it is. The way it is, it couldn't happen any different, is the way it is. So the ego says, oh, it could have been different. I shoulda, I coulda, I woulda. No, you find out that the way it is always perfect, which of course says the same thing. It also stands for EST, Erhard Seminars Training. So that's how the S came in.
Yeah, yeah, and I believe Gary told me it's not really taught at least anymore, unless maybe a different form of it.
It's in a different form. Yeah, it's now called landmark education. It probably has the same basis, but it's a different form.
Okay, all right. Well, so let's see. You live in New York, right?
I live on the Hudson in Yonkers, New York. Yeah.
So, and the reason I asked that because you were right there at the very earliest days of the course. Now, did you get to meet? Did you know Helen Schuckman and her colleague Bill Thetford? Did you know Ken Wapnick too?
Ken, I met Ken around 79, 80. That was 2 years into it. Just I was very close to Ken. I consider Ken my teacher. So there's a few people like Keith Kavanaugh say Ken is my teacher. I say the same thing. Ken Wapnick is my teacher. There's no accident that Ken just happened to meet Helen and Bill, and then became the teacher of the course. It all happened perfect. It was perfectly orchestrated, as I say.
Yeah, wow, that must have been amazing too, and I'm sure at the very beginning you look back and go, wow, this is fantastic. I had this experience. I know Jon Mundy told me a funny little story that he had been invited by Helen and Bill to go to Ken Wapnick's tiny little apartment in New York, and they explained to him about the book, A Course in Miracles, and John looked at Helen, who I guess was kind of diminutive and big glasses and fuzzy hair, and he said, "Oh, isn't?" He said he thought to himself, "Isn't that sweet? The old lady wrote a little book." I go, okay.
John knew Helen very well. She was kind of his motherly guidance. She was always there to help him with his relationships.
Yeah, yeah.
So he knew Bill and Helen. I knew Judy Scutch, who founded the Foundation for Inner Peace. I had met her about 2 or 3 years into the course, so I didn't know Bill and Helen, but Ken Wapnick, absolutely, big
Wow.
time.
That is awesome, and Ken was an amazing teacher, still is. I mean, he's doing his work from a different plane. Um, oh wow, this is just great. We are talking to David Dove Fishman here, one of the foundational teachers of A Course in Miracles. So, David, despite the increasing worldwide popularity of A Course in Miracles, many people still have not heard of it. How would you describe the course to someone who's just been introduced to it? I know that's a tall order, but I think you have a.
Well, I if someone would ask, I would tell them it's spiritual psychotherapy, which is what it is. And if they have a desire to know a little bit more about spiritual psychotherapy, I would go further. Not everyone is really that interested in something spiritual. They may see it as woo woo or something like that. But if someone wants to, for me, and the reason I did it, remember I said those 3 words after I had my spiritual awakening when I was 32. That was 5 years before I heard about A Course in Miracles, was love the truth. So for me, it is the truth. And I do it because I think if you're going to be living in this world and, do you really just want to do what the world says you should do? Like do this, be this, be that. No, I really would like to know what is the truth. Who is God? What is, how did this world come into being? So that is what the course does. It gives you an overview of how we got here. That's number one. A tiny mad idea entered into eternity, and the Son of God remembered not to laugh. He took it seriously, and he said, well, I'm different, I'm special, and I want more. And the world is always about people wanting more. As General Electric once said, progress is our most important product. So we want to improve ourselves. We want to gain. We want to something very interesting. I just heard this from Ken Wapnick, even though, of course, he passed over 10 years ago. I listen to his audio things almost every morning at ACIM Gather. They start playing Ken Wapnick, the teacher that plays. It starts at 5, but by 5:40, Ken Wapnick is on for like 2 or 3 hours every morning. So I do listen every single morning to Ken. Now, recently, I heard him say something I never heard him say prior. He said, if you're really doing the course, instead of trying to improve your station in life, since we're all here and coming to a classroom to learn lessons, there's no accident that you came into the station, whatever station it is. It could be the wrong side of the tracks. It could be that you were into a wealthy family. No matter where it is, that's where your lessons are. That's where your lessons are. But in this world, what we try to do is change our station from a lowly station to a higher station. That's ego. That's ego says, well, I want to improve myself. No, you're always in the perfect place. Wherever you are is the perfect place to learn the lessons that you came here for.
And with that being said, I believe many people, and I know when I was younger, I had trouble accepting that. You know, what am I doing in this place? I screwed up, blah blah blah. But one of the main messages of the course is there's no accidents or coincidences.
Well, everything does happen perfectly. I'm not saying it doesn't. And the idea of wherever you are, whatever's happening is the perfect thing to actually happen. So no matter, I mean, the ego wants to survival of the fittest, which is Charles Darwin's idea. The ego wants to win, doesn't care who loses. That's why the world looks exactly the way it does. It's a win-lose, I win, you lose kind of thing. Either everyone wins, which is the law of God, or no one wins. So it's in a win-lose kind of situation. The ego is the winner, and of course that's part of the dream. We enter into a dream where the dreamer of the dream, the course takes you to a place where you can finally say, "Oh, I'm doing this to myself." That's the secret of salvation, is I'm doing this to myself. And forgiveness is the way that you finally get to the place where you realize others are not doing anything to me that I didn't actually ask them to do. There's a thing called responsibility for sight, chapter 21, section 2. It says, everything that seems to happen to me, I have asked for, and I have received exactly as I have asked. And then it says, deceive yourself no longer, that you're helpless in face of what is done to you. Acknowledge that you have been mistaken, and all effects of your mistakes will disappear. So what happens, you go from being a victim of somebody outside doing something to you to being the cause or the dream of the dream. So you cannot wake up from a dream where you are a figure in the dream. You can only wake up from a dream if you are the dreamer of the dream. So that is what the course does. It brings you to where you are responsible, where you are cause. So you realize that the things that happen, I have asked for, and they happen as I have asked. So when I become cause, I actually can choose a different teacher instead of the teacher of the ego that says he did something and he should be punished and he's guilty. No, nobody's done anything to me that I didn't ask for, and I can actually awaken from the thought that I am at the effect. No, I am not at effect. I am cause. I am cause. And maybe that would be helpful to someone who wants to know a little bit more about the course.
Now, everything you just said is absolutely beautiful information that can be applied on a daily basis. I've come to the point where I can do this now. Say, I need to get going. I'm late to be for an appointment somewhere, and I'm in a rush, and I get out of my place, and I'm walking. I walk like 100 feet or something, and all of a sudden, oh, I forgot this. Something key, and the ego would have me start cussing this. Oh my God, I'm going to be even more late. But now I do exactly that. I'll come back and get whatever it was that I forgot. Go back, and I just think everything's perfect right here, right now, the way it's meant to be. And it's actually allows a sense of peace to flow over me when I do that.
Exactly. And there's a line in the course that says time is the vast illusion. So time is the world of the ego. Things happen where I'm late and I feel guilty and things, but time is part of the dream. Things that happen in time are not in the mind of God. The mind of God is eternal or changeless. There is no time in eternity. So the way that you recognize this, and as you said, whenever you get there is perfect. Things always happen perfectly. You're perfectly cared for. You really can't be late. You really cannot be late. Whatever happens, happens perfectly. And it teaches us the lesson that I came here for. So the world is really a classroom. Instead of thinking of the world as, oh, the world is my oyster, the world's a classroom where you come here to learn lessons. And whatever the lesson is, if you want to learn the lesson, instead of saying, why is this happening to me, which is what the ego does, say, what is this lesson teaching me? What is this lesson teaching me? And by asking that, you start to learn what the course is really talking about, that this is not your home. It says in the course, ask the Holy Spirit, which is really, it's like our teacher sent by our Father to bring us home. Ask the Holy Spirit of all things that happen to you, what is it for? Because you do not know what it's for. This is not your home. There's a lesson 76 says, I'm under no laws but the laws of God. And that's a humorous lesson, because it says you think there's a law for nutrition, a law for finance, a law for health, a law for this. No, those aren't laws. Those are dreams that you made up. Under the law of God, all are created equal.
I think everything you just said, if whoever's watching or listening to this adapts that into their life, they're going to notice less sense of frustration and anger, and understand that everything is perfect in this moment. Thank you for that beautiful explanation. So,
Yeah.
of course, I've got lots of questions for you too. If one simply watched the news media and looked at social media, it would be easy to believe that there's absolutely no hope for the world. Absolutely, you turn on the news, and that all of humanity is completely insane. What would you say to the people who believe this and feel there's no hope for the world right now?
Well, if you look at the world as real, meaning, of course it's real. There's wars in the Middle East, is what's going on in Eastern Europe, and what's going on our southern borders. And now, if you take everything here seriously, the ego is running your mind. So if you go back to where it says, a tiny mad idea entered into eternity, and the Son of God remembered not to laugh. He took it seriously. Now, if you go into a movie theater, and I don't care what is actually playing, but say it's one of these dramas where there's a war going on and there's earthquakes and hurricanes and this and if you're sitting in the chair and you kind of identify yourself with the hero or somebody in the thing, and you don't want them to get hurt, and you feel bad for them, and if you do that, then you're basically sucked into the movie, and it's not a movie anymore. It's not a movie. It's very real for you. But if you recognize that, wait a minute, I'm sitting here in this movie, and that's a screen up there, and the projector is behind me, and someone's in this projector booth projecting those images on the screen, and I'm taking what's going on up there seriously. In this world, it's the exact same thing. There's a line in the course, 3 words: projection makes perception. Chapter 21, in the very first 3 words, projection makes perception. The world you see is an outside picture of your own inner condition. We are the projector. So if I feel that I have done something wrong, which you can use the word sin, but I don't want to be punished, because sin means I'm guilty, and guilt demands punishment. I want to see somebody else out there punished. That's why I watch the 6 o'clock news. I watch the 6, because all those people have done something wrong. They should be going to prison. They should be punished. They. It's always they should be punished. Poor me. I'm an innocent person. I didn't do anything wrong. So we project out onto this worldwide screen, almost like virtual reality. virtual reality is just beginning now in the last, say, 50 years, 40, 50 years, and now it's even going to even higher levels, artificial intelligence, etc. But that's exactly what this world is. It's virtual reality. We are watching something that's on a screen, but the thoughts that are on the screen are coming from our own mind. So I'm always, like I like to say, you can write this on my tombstone. No matter what I say about another person, no matter what I think about another person, I'm always thinking and talking about myself. There's only really one self. That's why the name of my book is called Into Oneness. The whole idea of the course is that the mind of God is one. It's not scattered all over the place. The mind of God is one. We are all one with the mind of God. It's the oneness. It's the sameness. It's the equality. But if you look out at a world of 8 billion people and somebody's doing something wrong, they should be doing something wrong. It's always they. No, there's no they. There's one.
And the way you just explained that, anybody who's tuning in for the first time may and have never heard this stuff before, maybe saying, "What the heck is he saying?" I would highly advise you to listen to what David just had to say. Go back and watch us and absorb it, and then pick up a copy of A Course in Miracles. This is just great stuff. The course.
I just want to say, as Ken Wapnick would say, the course is not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You come to the course when you say, there must be another way. That's how Helen and Bill actually started.
Mm-hmm.
One of them said there must be a better way. So when you think that something is crazy going on, then you look for something like a blue book called A Course in Miracles will fall into your lap, because you're looking for something, a new answer to what's going on. But if you think everything is wonderful, this course is not for you. That's right out of Ken Wapnick's mouth.
That's kind of like why I started this podcast. I got to the point where there's got to be a better way. And so I've had the opportunity to talk to wonderful people like you and bring it out to the world. So as I started to say, the course is described as a mind training program. What exactly needs training in our mind in order to live a life of love, truth, and oneness?
Well, the workbook, which is there's 3 books. There's a text and the workbook with 365 lessons. It says don't do more than 1 lesson a day. So if you did a lesson a day, it would take 1 year to complete the lessons. Now, some of the lessons are, tell you right up front what the whole course is really saying. I like to say that about lesson number 1, which most people would think it's crazy, but lesson 1 says nothing I see here means anything. And I got to tell you, the person who told me just go get the books and start with lesson 1, I saw that, and because I had done S, I kind of realized, that there's a lot of truth here, that nothing here means anything. And then lesson 2 says, well, just in case you think something means something, guess what? You're the one who gives it all the meaning it has. Between lesson 1 and lesson 2, that's really, and for me, is the whole course. But like, for instance, lessons 20, 21, 27, and 28 all say the same thing. 20 says, I am determined to see. 21 says, I'm determined to see differently. 27 says, above all else, I'm determined to see. And 28 is the cherry on top. Above all else, I'm determined to see differently. So if you're doing the course, it's because you want to see, is there another way of looking at this world? And that's why I use the word truth. If you really want the truth, rather than, oh, well, the world, well, some people here are crazy and some people are successful and some people are failing. If you look at the world through the eyes of the ego, it's insane. And the course says it's insane.
Wow. I think that too, somebody reading that for the first time, lesson number 1 in the workbook, nothing you see means anything. I remember when I got to meet Gary Renard, and I went to his workshop, and he and I are the same age, and we were both talking, and we both said the very first time we read the course, he said to himself, "What the hell does this mean?" I have no idea. So yeah, if you're picking up the course for the first time, persevere. Just get past that, and it will start to mean something for you.
Yeah. I did the first 50 lessons in 50 days because I really loved the course. And it starts with lesson 1 with nothing I say means anything. By the time you get to lesson 50, it says, I am sustained by the love of God. In other words, we think money is thing that sustains us, or good food, or whatever it is that you think sustains you. No, I'm sustained by the love of God. Now, the one thing the course cannot teach you, it's a mind training course, it slowly allows you to see things differently, slowly allows you to see things. But the one thing it can't teach you, you can't find it in a book, is how to develop trust. Now, trust means to let go of thinking that I need to know anything. That if you think you need to know anything, you think that the book it's going to teach you something that you don't know. No, the book is gently allowing your mind to see things slightly different. I'm going to mention that Ken Wapnick had 2 favorite lessons. I'll mention them. Lesson 5, which is I am never upset for the reason I think, his first favorite lesson. I am never, the key word is never, upset for the reason, and we get upset all the time. And you think, well, this person did the wrong thing, or they're late, or whatever it is. No, that is not the reason you're upset. You're upset because you're listening to the ego as a teacher telling you to be angry, to want to hurt somebody, or to be depressed or be sad. So the voice in our head is telling us, you should do this, you should do that. No, that's not the voice you really want to hear. You want to hear the voice of the Holy Spirit, who kind of smiles and says, what you think is true is not true. And his second lesson that he loved was lesson 34. I can choose peace instead of this. So when you're upset and you're angry, you don't want to be peaceful. You want this person to pay for what they did to you. And you think about it, and you maneuver. You're going to call them up. You're going to go see them. No, no, you want the peace of God for yourself. That's all you want. That's his 2 favorite lessons, 5 and 34.
I think personally that lesson that says you're never upset for the reason you think has been a big help to me, because when I do get in a situation where I want to project my anger and blame somebody else, it makes me stop and realize, wait, what am I projecting here? What am I really upset about? And that will really help you calm down in certain situations and feel more peaceful, get in less trouble that way too.
Yeah. Actually, the secret of salvation, it says it right in the course, the secret of salvation is I'm doing this to myself. Yeah. So why am I getting angry? The truth is I'm doing this to remember the projector on the movie screen? Mm-hmm. It's my thoughts. My ego thoughts are getting me depressed, angry, upset, afraid, living in fear, because it's my own thoughts. As the Course says, there's only 2 emotions. One is love, which is the love of God, in which all is perfectly safe and equal. And the other is fear. And all those other emotions, the anger, the depression, the anxiety, all that comes from the emotion of fear. But there is nothing to fear. That happens to be lesson 48. Says there is nothing to fear. This is a fact. And then it gives you another sentence after that, which he says it's not a fact if you still believe in illusions. In other words, if you believe in the world, there is something to fear. but there's nothing to fear in truth.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful advice. Thank you, and thank you, the course. I think many people have difficulty in wrapping their head around the term oneness. How would you describe what oneness means both individually and for humanity as a whole?
Well, that is not an easy question to answer, by the way, because for anyone to recognize oneness out of a mind that is not one, out of a mind that is not one, you have to be willing to look at equality. To me, the word equality is really sameness or equality. So when I'm talking about my brother, I don't care what I'm saying about him. I'm really talking about myself. In other words, he seems to be out there separate from me. And talking about the word sin, I didn't get into it earlier. The only sin, S-I-N, is the belief. The belief. And remember, every belief has an L-I-E in the center of belief. It's a lie. It's a belief in that we are separate, and different. You're over there, I'm over here. So time and space, which is opposite sides of the same illusion, the ego needs time and space to actually spin all of its stories. All the things need, like the past. I want the future to be better than the past. But you can think you can change something from the past into the future. But the truth is, you're always right here in the eternal now. It's always now. And in truth, the peace and the love of God can only be experienced in the now. If you live in time, you actually are going to go through lessons. And I'm on my card. I like to just read it. It says, be grateful for your triggers, things that upset you. They get you angry, that you go into fear, you start to worry, you're concerned. Be grateful for your triggers because they reveal your mistaken beliefs, the things that you believe to be true. So the only reason we go through upsets in this world, since it is a classroom, you come here to learn lessons. And you don't learn lessons by doing everything right. You learn lessons when someone does the wrong thing to you or something like that. That's when you really say, what is this for? Because I really don't know. The ego said, well, I know what this is for. They screwed me. And there was always something outside of you. No, there's nothing outside of me. That's the oneness. There's nothing outside of me. There's nothing outside. I'm always speaking about myself.
Well, and the course is described as a teaching of non-dualistic spirituality. Wouldn't oneness be the basis of non-dualism?
Absolutely. That non-dual and oneness is the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people stumble over that term non-dualistic. What the heck does that mean?
Well, you see, it's not something you can learn, by the way. You say you cannot learn oneness. There's no way, because we live in a world of differences. So the course is about seeing sameness instead of seeing differences. So your willingness, you got to be willing to say, there's a line in the course, and the author Jesus says, are you willing to see your brother as sinless? Now that's it's not that he says, are you willing to see your brother didn't do anything wrong? He doesn't say that. Are you willing to see your brother as innocent? If he's innocent, I'm innocent. The only thing that has to be let go of in this, and what the course is all about, is your belief in guilt. Guilt says I'm not innocent. Guilt means I have done something terrible. I separated myself from my creator, and I'm a body, and I'm going to be punished. Oh, I got 80 to live, and then they decree the death knell. This body is only going to be around for so long, and then boom, But if that's what, but God does not create bodies. God does not create anything that lives and dies. What God creates is eternal, changeless. Spirit is eternal. Spirit is changeless. That's why there's 23 lessons that say, I am not a body. I am free of the body. I am still as God created me. So 23 out of 365 lessons, or 7% of the course, says the same lesson. I am not a body. I am free. I am still as God created me. I'm still as love created me. God and
That's
love in one, even though the three different words are they're all the same.
That's one of my favorites. And, everything you just said is so radically opposite of the way the world operates, where, you see the TV commercials, adorn your body with this and your body will be nicer and you'll appeal to other bodies and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we've been talking a little bit about oneness. I remember Gary Renard telling me he was on this really famous, I can't remember the name, some famous radio show that's on all night and has 1 million listeners. And he was talking. This is when Gary just started promoting his first book, The Disappearance of the Universe, and Gary kept talking about oneness. And the host just let him have it. And he said, if you talk about oneness one more time, I'm going to go through the roof. and so, but Gary just remained non-judgmental and kept going. But I always love that story.
Yeah. Oneness cannot be explained. When you stop looking outside, your body's eye. There's a line in the course. It says you have eyes that don't see, you have ears that don't hear, and you have a brain that doesn't think. Now that's right in the Course in Miracles. Now, if you have eyes that don't see, so what is it that I need to really see? You have to go within to feel that oneness. The body's eyes and the body's brain will never understand oneness. Oneness is the peace of God. The goal of this course is peace. That's the goal of the course. When you have peace, you're already home. The whole idea of this course is to wake up home. We're all going home. In course language, you never left home. We never left. Remember, a dream is a dream. You're at home dreaming you're in exile. You're at home dreaming, I got this body. I'm going to have a good time tonight. My hormones are raging. I got to do this. No. That's the dream.
Well, that sounds pretty appealing to me. So, another one of the main teachings of the Course is forgiveness, but this is not the type of forgiveness that people practice in this 3D world based on separation, right?
Exactly. That's called forgiveness to destroy, because you're saying, you did something that I don't like, but I'm going to forgive you because I'm more noble than you are, and I'll forgive you this time. And it's really, it better not happen again. Next time I won't forgive you, because But the one thing that does, is that it makes the other person's actions real. You did it. I'll let it go. I won't bring it up again. But it makes it real. No, it's not real. It's not real. So forgiveness is always about saying, even though I set it up where the other person in this movie, in this dream, I'm the dream of the dream that this person did it to me. I set it up that particular way, but the way it really is, I wanted this person to actually do whatever it is so I can learn the lesson. Remember? Be grateful for the things that trigger you, that upset you, that get you angry, because they reveal your mistaken beliefs. And on the back of the card, I have a thing that says, trust would settle every problem now. And that's right out of the Course, chapter 26, section 8. It says, trust would settle you have no problems. But basically, today happens to be the 80th day of the year, today. which is March 20th, is 80th day. And lesson 80 actually says, let me recognize I have no problems, unless that's lesson 80. People think that they have problems because they're using the mind, their eyes, their ears. And of course they got problems. In this world, there's always problems. As soon as you solve one problem, you always get two more. Did you notice that? The ego loves giving you problems so that you use your mind to solve your problems. That's the one thing the ego wants to do, is to busy out your mind so you don't know you have a mind. So when you return your mind to peace, all I want is the peace of God. If you return your mind to peace, remember Ken Wapnick's second lesson, lesson 34. I can choose peace instead of this. When you return your mind to peace, that's when you can let go of the dream. But as long as you're fighting or, fight or flight, one of my favorite Ken metaphors is, he says, you think that you're sitting in a sandbox and somebody's kicking sand in your face, and you're trying to figure out, should I kick sand back, which is fight back, or run in the other direction, which is fight or flight, which is from Sigmund Freud. He says, no, that's not your problem. Your problem is you think that there's a sandbox and there isn't any sandbox.
Yes, perfect. I love that. I had not heard that from Ken. If you heard me gasp a little bit, it's because you just brought up lesson 80, and my next question is: we've been talking about separation, which is the cause of all guilt for all of human form. In the course, lesson 80 states one problem, one solution. What the heck does that mean?
Yeah, the problem is the belief in separation. That's the sin. Sin is nothing more than a belief in separation. And the way you know that you're separate is, well, here's me over here. I'm Dove, and you're Carl, and there's my friend John, and we're all separate, right? It's that belief in separation, and the solution is there is no the separation never happened. I have always here. It says a sense. This is from chapter 1, section 6 of the textbook, paragraph 2. It says a sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need to correct. So the belief that I'm separate from my Father who created me is the only lack that you need to correct, which means that you think that God is over there someplace, anthropomorphic God. I don't know what he's doing now. It's always a he, no. God is right here always. In other words, the mind of God is all there is. We are part of the mind of God. That's the oneness. The oneness is the one mind of God. God is, and then you cease to speak. It's a line right out of the Course. God is, and then you cease to speak. And that's why trust, if I could trust that, I'd be laughing now. Mm. Well, but if I have any fears, I don't trust that God is with me.
One problem, one solution. All that we see, experience, and think we are seeing and hearing, etc., comes from that original thought of separation from our source, which is the original Big Bang, the tiny mad idea.
That's right. Scientists can tell you what happened a few microseconds after the Big Bang. Ask a scientist what happened before the Big Bang. Nobody can tell you. Nobody.
Well put. Yeah, I like that. That's great. Wow. Again, we're talking to David Fishman, a wonderful teacher of the ACIM for a very long time, blessing us here. Now, I mentioned in your introduction, you have a group that you established many years ago called ACIM Gather. Tell us about this group. Is its main page on Facebook?
Well, ACIM Gather came really out of my understanding. I was asked to be the leader of a group in New York in 1980, and this gal said, let's start a group in my home in Greenwich Village, and it happened, by the way, on New Year's Eve 1980 at Jon Mundy's home. He was having a New Year's Eve party, and he said, let's meditate on how the 80s can be better than the 70s. Of course, the 70s was the Vietnam War. So we meditated for 15 minutes. And 1 minute after midnight, this gal, Giselle Lasbro, says, let's start a group in the Course of Miracles in my home. And she said, David, why don't you lead it? And my mind said, you can't do that. You're only halfway through the workbook. You never even opened the textbook. How could you lead it? But out of my mouth, out of my lips came, okay, I'll do it. Because I had done some training at S prior to that, in which you got beyond the ego. The ego says, well, you can't do that. You don't even know what the Course is saying. And I said, okay, I'll do it. Now, the first 2 years, we had like 20 or 25 people coming every Monday night to the group. And people would ask me questions like, what does this mean? And why do you think he says that? And, thinking that I knew something that they didn't know. And I knew I didn't know something that they didn't know. I really didn't. Maybe I read a page or two ahead. That's about it. So about 2 or 3 years into it, it came to me, why don't I ask everybody to take their turn as a moderator of the group? And the funniest thing happened. Those people who became moderators, became teachers on their own, went out and became teachers of many other people. One guy, Bob O'Donnell, he was a rear admiral in the Navy. He invited me to the United Nations about 2 or 3 years later. He's sitting at a table that's about 100 feet long with about 50 countries sitting around it, and they all have the blue book, of Course in Miracles, and he's leading it.
Wow.
Now, it came to me then that that's how people can really learn, is by teaching. So ACIM Gather became a place where everyone is seen as equal. Everyone is invited to be a teacher. And most people say, well, please don't ask me to teach. I can't teach. But those people who pushed through that and started teaching became teachers of large groups, ministries. I'm thinking of 2 or 3 people who now have thousands of people following them. They started teaching in 2005.
Wow. And, I find that interesting. The students who became moderators, the Holy Spirit basically took advantage of that and used them to speak through and teach. And those quote moderator students went on to become teachers themselves.
That's exactly what happens. You develop trust. If you say, I can't do that, you aren't willing to trust that it's not you doing the teaching, it's the Holy Spirit speaking to you and through you. Once you develop trust, you realize, my God, I can teach A Course in Miracles. And that's what people do. So ACIM Gather, which is still around, has got people who all came together, who decided that they wanted to be teachers, and now we're all there with each other and for each other. We're really like a group that helps each other.
Awesome. Well, I will put all of those links to ACIM Gather and etc. in the show notes here, so people can find it on their own. Well, let's talk about your book, Into Oneness. I know you have a couple books, but I know you kind of mentioned to me how this book came about before we started recording. Can you tell us about this book?
Yeah. Well, when the internet started, the only place you could meet was on AOL in those days, America Online. There was no microphones. Everything was done in text on a whiteboard. And they had rooms. I think you could have 24 people in a room, and then it was closed. So we used to have people. And I did the same thing as I did in the groups in Greenwich Village in New York. People would come in. I say, if you want to be in this setting, I ask each of you to take your turn as a teacher. Now, there was a gal by the name of Valinda who copied and pasted. Remember, there was no microphone, there's no recordings, there's no videos, no Zoom, nothing like that. It was just people texting on a whiteboard, and she copied and pasted everything that I did for 3 or 4 years, and then she took the cream of what she liked. In other words, the best of the notes, and she went to Kinko's and turned it into a book. And she gave
Wow.
it to me for my birthday. And then about 6 months later, I said, you know something? I think I'd like to write a book. She said, but David, you already have a book. I said, I do? She said, yeah, I gave it to you for your birthday. So that book, in fact, this cover and the title of the book, Into Oneness, comes from her. She
Wow.
gave it the title, and she also gave it the thing, but she took uh, all the copy and paste from everything I said. She used it for the contents of the book.
What a beautiful gift. That is just fantastic. So yeah, and David recently sent me a copy of his book. I have to go to my mailbox. I can't wait to read it. That is going to be awesome. So well, we're going to wind up here in a little bit, but I have one more thing here, Um, the book is called A Course in Miracles, and line 1 on page 1 of the main text states there's no order of difficulty in miracles. Why is it so hard for people to accept this statement?
Because in this world, there is an order of, like if I get a splinter in my finger, getting it out is not all that difficult. But if I get cancer, that seems to be, I mean, hey, you better go see a doctor right now because you don't have much time. So in the mind of the ego, there is this entire range of, well, that's a little thing, and that's a bigger thing, and it's even bigger. No order of difficulty is really talking about the mind. The mind is one. The mind is one, and what is one? It's the same to all. That's why the very first principle is there is no order of difficulty, because in truth, not in illusion, in truth, not in time, but in eternity, we are all created equal and the same. See that?
Well, one thing I love about, because I repeat that line to myself on a daily basis, there's no order of difficulty in miracles. I also love it says that miracles are your birthright. Miracles are natural. Something has gone wrong if a miracle doesn't happen in your life.
But well, a miracle is simply seeing things correctly. That's what a miracle is seeing things the way it really is. The way it really is, you can smile and laugh. If you're not smiling and laugh, you're taking anything seriously. The ego has got you. Literally, you're the prisoner of the ego. The ego thought system says, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of you from the cradle to the grave." Considering that you're a body. So the body is the home of the ego. No, I am not a body. I'm spirit. To spirit, everything is the same. Spirit sees no order of difficulty. I'd like to just mention one other thing, if it's possible. When I was listening to Ken Wapnick many moons ago, I realized he said something about everything in this world happens perfectly. And I said to myself, what's the possibility that if there's 365 lessons and everyone is born on one of 365 days, that maybe we're born on the very day of the lesson that we're born to teach.
Yeah.
So I was born on May 12th in a leap year, and I I was born on lesson 133, which is one of the most practical lessons for anyone. And if you want, I'll give you your lesson. I have like a I have a gypsy, but what I wanted to say is lesson 133 is so practical. It says, do not value what is valueless, only value what is valuable. Now you might say, well, that sounds true, but what's valuable and what's valueless? And he gives you two criteria. If something begins in time and ends in time, it has no value to you, the eternal. You're valuing something that comes and goes. Why do you want to value that? Why not value what's eternal? And then the second criteria is if something belongs to somebody else that you don't have, or it belongs to you and others don't have it, whatever it is, you're valuing the valueless. Because what God gives, he gives to all equally the same. So the peace of God is valuable. The love of God is valuable. The light, spirit, those are valuable things. But if I'm valuing money or I'm valuing things or I'm valuing books, that has really no value to you, the eternal. Now, if you want, I can give you your birthday lesson. All I need is your birthday.
May 26th.
May 26th, very close to me. May 26th is lesson 146. May 26th is lesson 146. So lesson 146, which it takes me 1 second to find out what that lesson is your birthday lesson. And if you go take a look at it, you might find, like a lot of people do, that it resonates with you. So lesson 146, I'll tell you in a second what it is. It's a review lesson, and it says, my mind holds only what I think with God. And the two lessons that it reviews is, no one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. Now, that's the reason I do the course. I want the truth. No one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. And 132, which is also my birthday lesson, because it's on May 12th. I loose the world from all that I thought it was. I loose the world from all I thought it was. And in that lesson, in paragraph 6, it's the only place in the course, in lesson 132, that says, there is no world, exclamation point. This is the central theme this course teaches. So as long as you think the world is real, this stuff will sound like woo-woo. But if you're willing to see things differently, that I'm not a body, I'm spirit, you say, oh, if there's no world, then what is this? Well, you're dreaming a dream, like you go into a movie, you're watching a movie, and there are lessons for you to learn. And when you're through learning your lessons, it's time to wake up.
Well, thank you, David. This is just awesome, beautiful, beautiful information. I always like to kind of go back to imagining that I'm somebody listening to this for the very, very first time, and anybody who's in that place right now, take the time to sit down and really listen to this again, watch it again, and see where it takes you. And if you are a longtime course student, everything we've done here is just a reinforcement of all this beautiful teaching of A Course in Miracles. So, David Dove Fishman, we're gonna let you go. It's been a fabulous talk. I'm so grateful. There's no order of difficulty in miracles. It's a miracle I got you on the show. This is great. Thank you for being here.
Enjoy being here with you, Carl. Really, thank you. And anyone can contact me. I do counseling. So if people have problems, things that worry them, concern them, upsets, maybe with family. Lately, I see a lot of mothers who are upset that their children didn't turn out the way that they wanted them to. Those are perfect lessons that we come here to learn, and we find that that's a lesson for me to recognize that I don't have to change anybody. That what I have to do is recognize that I am perfect the way I am, and my brother or sister or my son is perfect the way they are, instead of seeing them as having to do something in order to be something. S and Course in Miracles both say the same thing. In your being, you already have everything. The ego says, no, you have to do in order to finally have, so you can finally be what you want to be. No, you are being exactly what God created now and always.
And with that, we're gonna let you go, David. Thank you. Just, man, I can't wait to go back and listen to this myself. So thank you, David Fishman.
Thank you. Namaste. Blessings.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified Law of Attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.